Am I the a-hole for breaking up with my boyfriend after he called me his backup plan? I, 24F, just broke up with my boyfriend, 26M, of almost 3 years, and now my phone is blowing up with texts from his friends and even his mom, telling me I overreacted and should have at least heard him out. But I don't think there's any coming back from what he said. Maybe I'm being stubborn, but I feel like I was his safety net this entire time. For some background, my boyfriend, let's call him Soren, and I met in college through mutual friends. We started dating during my senior year, and after I graduated, I moved to his city because he had a great job opportunity. It made sense at the time. He was my best friend, we were serious, and I was excited about our future. I found a job I liked, and we eventually moved in together. Everything seemed fine until about 6 months ago. Soren started acting off. He wasn't distant in the obvious ways, like ignoring me or picking fights, but he became more secretive with his phone, staying out late with coworkers who I never met, and just generally seemed like his head was somewhere else. When I asked him about it, he brushed it off, saying work had been stressful. Then came the first red flag I should have paid more attention to. One of my friends, who doesn't even live in our city, randomly texted me, asking if everything was okay between Soren and me. When I asked why, she got weirdly quiet before finally admitting that a girl she knows, someone named Alira, had mentioned Soren a few times in passing. Apparently, Alira had been casually talking about this guy she used to have a thing with back in college, and how they were reconnecting now that they were both in the same city again. I felt sick. I confronted Soren that night, and at first, he laughed. Actually laughed. He said it was ridiculous, and that Alira was just an old friend who was going through a rough time. According to him, she'd recently gotten out of a long-term relationship, and he was just being there for her as a friend. He even showed me some texts between them, which, admittedly, were pretty tame. Nothing flirty, nothing suspicious, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Soren had never mentioned Alira before, not once in our 3 years together. And now, all of a sudden, they were old friends catching up. I told myself I was overthinking, that I needed to trust him. And then, 2 weeks later, I found something that made my stomach drop. I wasn't even snooping. I swear. Soren had left his laptop open on the couch while he went to shower. I sat down next to it, barely paying attention, when I noticed the chat window was still open. It was from some app one didn't recognize, but the name at the top? Alira. I know I shouldn't have looked. I hesitated for a full minute, telling myself I was just being paranoid. But then I saw my own name in the conversation, and my heart started racing. I scrolled up. Alira. So does she still think everything's fine? Soren. Yeah. She asked about you, but I covered it. Alira. Of course you did. You always were good at keeping things under wraps. Soren. You make it sound bad. It's not like that. Alira. Then what is it like, Soren? I felt like the floor had been ripped out from under me. I could hear the shower still running, so I kept scrolling. Most of the messages were vague, but the more I read, the clearer it became. He and Alira had history, real history, not just some casual old friend story. And he had never told me. At one point, she sent him a message that made my blood run cold. Alira. You always said if things didn't work out with her, you'd find your way back to me. And Soren didn't deny it. He didn't shut it down. He just replied with, things are complicated. I closed the laptop so fast I nearly broke it. I sat there, shaking, trying to process what I had just read. He was keeping me around like a placeholder, like some backup plan in case whatever this was with Alira didn't work out. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw his stupid laptop across the room. Instead, I took a deep breath, stood up, and walked straight to the bathroom door. I knocked, and when he called out, "Yeah?" I opened it just enough to say, "We need to talk." He sighed. "Can it wait?" I'm kind of, "No, it really can't." He must have heard something in my voice because he didn't argue. The water shut off, and a moment later, he stepped out, towel around his waist, water dripping from his hair. What's wrong? I was holding his laptop now, gripping it so tight my knuckles were white. Who is Alira to you? His face didn't change, but I saw it. The slight tension in his jaw. The way his eyes flicked, just for a second, to the laptop in my hands. What do you mean? I almost laughed. Don't play dumb. I saw the messages. For a second, he didn't say anything. He just stared at me, like he was calculating his next move. Then he sighed, ran a hand through his wet hair, and muttered, "This isn't how I wanted you to find out." That's when I knew. Whatever he was about to say wasn't going to make this better. And I was right, because the next words out of his mouth made my heart stop. He looked me dead in the eye and said, "Look, I didn't mean for you to find out like this. But yeah, I did always think of her as an option. An option. Like I was just one of many. Like I was some temporary fix until he could have the real thing. I thought that would be the worst part. I thought nothing could make this hurt more. But then he said, I mean, yeah, I love you. But if she had been ready back then, I probably would have picked her." I felt like I couldn't breathe. I opened my mouth, trying to say something, anything, but no words came out. And then, before I could even react, he looked at me, completely calm, and said, "But that doesn't mean we have to break up." That's when I realized something. He actually thought I would stay.